Beach Radio down in the city. Today we're here on Market and Powell. There's a major protest. There's going to be a march, and it's about no war against Iran. I am Dennis Bernstein with Miguel Gavilan Molina. The Answer Coalition is in the House, and at the table with me now to begin this broadcast is Hassim Haj. He's a member of AROC. Tell us a little bit remind people what AROC is, and tell us why you're here today. What's the protest about?
So AROC is a service organization serving the Arab and Muslim community in San Francisco and the broader Bay Area. We also have an organizing component composed of community members. I'm one of those members. And today we are here to oppose the recent escalations that the United States has been embarking on in the Middle East. We are here to fight and to oppose all war in the Middle East, all war against Iran, to demand the immediate withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq, and to demand the repeal of the AUMF, which gives our presidents, particularly this Trump administration, the ability to wage reckless violence on the people of the Middle East.
What was going through your mind? What was your gut reaction when you heard about the assassination in Baghdad?
The first thing that comes through my mind, any kind of person of conscience, is that this is a absolutely vile, reckless decision that will inevitably create the circumstances that will lead to further war and further violence on the people of the Middle East, particularly the people of Iraq and Iran, but everywhere, from Palestine through the Gulf region, everyone. And so my initial response was, sort of gut reaction was, how could they do this again? How is this happening again?
Well, what is your deepest concern? What do you think that attack opened the door to? What are the things that you are acting against today?
Well, I think it's important to remember that these wars have been going on for decades now. I have lived most of my life, and certainly all of my adult life, waking up every day with the U.S. waging war on our homelands in the Middle East, killing millions and crippling people with sanctions, with violence, with death. And so I think the most important thing to know about what we're doing here today, and the most important thing to remember, is that this is a moment where we need to come out and show solidarity as an anti-war movement, to show people what it means to have a movement that is truly anti-war, to have a movement that is taking its leadership from the most vulnerable, from people who are poor, from people who are queer, trans, and from people who are coming from all sorts of struggles, from Haiti to Palestine to the Philippines, to say we oppose U.S. war in the Middle East, no war in Iran, no war in Iraq, troops out. And that's the heart of what we're here doing today.
Wasim, my name is Miguel Gavilan Molina. I'm with Dennis here, KPFA. You were mentioning about the endless wars. The endless wars in the Middle East have been going on for centuries. It's not something that just happened in the last 60, 70 years after World War II and the English, the French, and United States dividing up, creating new territories in the Middle East to appease them. That conflict has been going on for ages. But here we are today. It's, the 25th lunar year, Saturday, 2020. And there's a massive march happening here at the Civic Center that deals with abortion, the anti-abortion groups. And it's interesting, I've been hearing them for hours, the children. Yet, what about the children in the Middle East? How many thousands have been killed, in the Middle East, let's say in the last 20 years, in the last 70 years? I mean, there's no mention of it at all. It's like, the children of the Middle East, brown children, indigenous children, tribal children in those areas. Like here in this country, we have children in cages, brown, indigenous, tribal children. So where does it go? Where does it end? At what point do you see this conflict ending? And what do you think you, as the future, as the representing the youth, the new voices rising up, what do you see in the future for this conflict? Where will it end? Will it end in your lifetime?
With regards to the Middle East, I think that it is important to remember that U.S. war on our homelands in the Middle East is the #1 obstacle to peace, stability, and democracy in those lands at this moment. So I think it's really clear that we do not forget that. I think this ends when we do have that anti-war movement and that real movement of solidarity, of people's liberation, that sees the connections that you've drawn, that sees the kids in cages, that sees the moms in Oakland who were savagely put to siege by the Oakland Police Department, bringing out tanks for against moms seeking housing justice for themselves. I think when we're able to see those connections, when we're able to look at all of these things as being deeply connected as part of a global structure of violence, of economic and racial exploitation. I think only then when we find that movement, and that is and will be and must be an anti-war movement, by the way, when that movement finds its voice, and as it is slowly doing it, as we see expression today, I think only then, when we find that movement based and fueled and energized through solidarity, that we can begin to develop the world that we want to live in, rather than the world we're living in today.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on this special broadcast from KPFA, streaming live here at Powell and Market in anticipation of a march through the streets to Union Square. We're going to continue the discussion. We thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
It's great to meet you.
And you are listening to a special KPFA From the Street broadcast. I'm Dennis Bernstein here with Miguel Gavilan Molina. We're at Powell and Market. I think we're now streaming effectively live, and we're going to continue our pre-March broadcast. We're joined by, well, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are to make sure we get your name right, and why you're here today.
Sure. My name is Ali Al-Maznai, organizers with Yemeni Alliance Committee. Yemeni Alliance Committee was formed after Muslim ban, aiming to resist anti-Yemen policies such as a Muslim ban and the U.S. involvement in the war in Yemen. As most countries in the Middle East and North Africa during the Arab Spring, Yemen was struggling with revolts and insurrection, which paved the way for civil war in 2014. In 2015, under Obama, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other countries intervened in the war with the full support and backing of US and the UK. Today, there have been reports over 100,000 Yemenis killed. The US supplies weapons to the Saudi-led coalition, who then bomb schools, hospitals, weddings in Yemen, which amount to the war crimes. The U.S. has also provided military assistance, intelligence support, and until recent made air refueling for Saudi warplanes.
Ali, why do you think it's important for people to be out in the street today?
Because what's happening right now in Yemen is the worst humanitarian crisis.
It's a famine.
It's a famine. It's a cholera.
Dairy slaughter. There's an epidemic of cholera.
It's a lot of things happening there. To be honest with you, I have a personal story. I'm sharing it with you guys. I'm gonna get emotional with it. I have my families there, and also my brother and sister in Yemen. Yes, in Sana'a, in the capital city. Yeah. I have my brother. He's 10 years old. I'm talking to them every single day. I'm telling them you have to go to school, you have to study. He told me why I'm gonna go to school if I'm gonna get killed. How you can imagine a kid, he's still 10 years old, told you I'm gonna get killed. He's still a kid. He has to think as a kid, just playing, enjoy his life, not to think he's gonna get killed. Also, my sister, she's studying right now with the university, and she don't want to go there because she's feeling unsafe. She's gonna get killed by Saudi bombing there.
And these are the Saudis that are fully supported by the U.S.
Yes.
These are bombers. When you talk about bombs, these are bombers that are being refueled by U.S. aircraft in the air. So the United States is playing a key role.
100%. 100%. They support them with the weapons, with all the information in Yemen. They give them the intelligence. They give them the whole support. U.S. and the U.K., both of them. And we stand in here to let like the people here stop the war in Yemen, stop supporting Saudis, stop supporting UAE. The people in Yemen, they are struggling. They are like nobody right now like can live as a person. You sleep at night, maybe you're not gonna wake up. You're gonna be died. You're gonna be killed by bombing from Saudi Arabia.
You're not sure you're going to make it to another day.
Yep.
And if you do, you might not have enough food to get through that day.
No.
This is the struggle, right?
Yes, sir.
And so the killing, the recent killing by the U.S. in Baghdad, how does that affect the war, the situation? Your thoughts on that?
It's almost the same. It's gonna if it's complete like that, it's gonna go like that. It's gonna happen the same thing what's happening in Yemen right now. We want to stop it before it's gonna start.
The same kind of hot war that's going on in Yemen, maybe the United States and the Saudis as partners to this expanding war.
Yes.
That would include Iran, and of course the war would get very big then.
Yes.
We thank you for telling us your very scary story. You're going to be marching today?
Yes.
All right. Well, we're gonna keep an eye on the march. We're gonna keep talking to a bunch of people who are really concerned.
And if you guys want any update about what's happening in Yemen, follow us in Facebook
Best
and
way
our
to do
page.
that. What's the best way?
Follow us in Facebook and our page, Yemeni Alliance Committee.
Yemeni
and
Alliance Committee.
Yes, and if you have any question, just submit it there, and we're gonna answer it.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And you are listening to a special edition, live edition of KPFA from the streets, streaming live. John Perulis at the camera. I think we've got a sound. There's a lot of different things going on here. In the distance, we're fighting with some sort of anti-abortion borderline maniacs. We've got a protest in support of Julian Assange, which is happening right in front of us here, and there is a lot going on. Let me ask you to give us your name, give us a little bit of background, who you are, and why you are out here in the middle of this chaos getting ready to march.
Well, first, thanks so much for being here. My name is Monica, and I'm part of the Arab Resource and Organizing Center. And we are here today to protest the war in Iran, and we are here to demand the removal of U.S. troops from Iraq and a repeal of the AUMF.
And by the way, say a little bit more about the AUMF. What is that?
The AUMF is authorized use of military force. It basically means that our president can act unilaterally and commit acts of war without contacting Congress at all.
And why do you think it's crucial for people to take it to the streets at this point? What is so urgent?
Yes, well, just yesterday, 1 million people were marching in Iraq to demand the removal of U.S. soldiers, and we're here to echo those cries and represent Iraqis today and say, no, we need to get American troops out of Iraq.
All right, I want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We're going to keep track of the rally. We're going to follow the march and see what happens as the day unfolds. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. And this is a live stream flying from the seat of the pants. This is Dennis Bernstein. My regular job is to produce flashpoints on Pacifica Radio, but we're here and we're preparing to follow this march against an expanding U.S. war against Iran. You saw the killing in Baghdad. We are concerned that could be the beginning of an expanding hot war in the Middle East. Let me ask you, Reverend, to tell us who you are and why you think it's crucial for people to be out in the streets today, standing, I guess you could say, against a U.S. war against Iran.
Mm-hmm. I am Reverend Janelle Oblola. I am representing a Malaya movement, and I'm a United Methodist pastor here in California, Nevada. And we're out here today to demand the end of the war, demand that the U.S. don't go into war with Iran because, well, as a person of faith, as a faith leader, war results in all kinds of violence, not just militarization, but also results in things like poverty. It results in economic instability, political instability, and mostly those who are poor, those who are elderly, those who are sick, and those with disabilities are the ones who bear the brunt of those kind of violences. And also, as a person of faith, we believe in fullness of life and for every person, and basic rights and basic needs fulfilled for every person. And war is against all of those things and makes it impossible for us to have those things.
Well, I noticed since the assassination in Baghdad and related adventures, the bulletin of the atomic scientists, which is the nuclear clock, moved a tick closer to midnight, which is their concern. And these are the cutting-edge scientists of our time that were that much closer, moving back towards a potential conflagration of a nuclear nature based on the volatility in the world. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do sense that there is there is increasing fascism, increasing violence throughout the world. And unless people take to the streets and we defend each other and take care of one another and stand up for one another, I think that these types of things are going to keep happening. Destruction is going to keep happening. It's going to impact creation. It's going to impact all of humanity. And yeah.
All right. And you're going to be out there marching today?
Yes.
And why do you think it's important to put your beliefs where your feet where your beliefs are today?
Well, as a person of faith, to put your faith into action in very concrete ways and not just send thoughts and prayers is something that we follow, especially if we're following Christ, who is someone who was on the ground with the people, with the common people, and was doing most of his ministry among those folks, amongst the most poor and oppressed people of the time. And so to be out here on the streets is to show our solidarity with the people worldwide that we are against war, we're against militarization here in the Middle East and in the Philippines as well.
All right. Well, we thank you. We're going to follow the march all the way through the day. Reverend, we wish you the best of luck, and we're going to keep an eye on all of this.
All right.
Thank you for your concern.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Again, you are listening to KPFA streaming live from the streets. There is a rally. There's a lot of chaos going on, but there's a rally that is being held by AROC and also, of course, by various groups, anti-war groups, who are really concerned that since the assassination, the high-profile assassination of the number 2 person in Iran in the streets of Baghdad, that we are that much closer to war. Frank, Lara, welcome back to the microphone. Tell us a little bit about, maybe you should start with your response when you heard about that assassination in the streets of Baghdad, which we should say now are crowded and have been crowded with hundreds of thousands of Iraqis saying, no more U.S. in our country. But what was the significance
Well, there's a
of that
very
act?
important saying that war is politics by another means. And the reason for that is because what's really occurring, right, is something that has been happening for many years now. The U.S. has been clear about what it wants to do in the region, has been clear for several presidencies, George Bush 1, George Bush 2, the Clintons, Obama administration, and we're seeing just a continuation of the imperialist policy, an economic policy that needs to dominate the region. So what happened, though, with this particular case is that it finally forced into the forefront of the mainstream the fact that the U.S. is the terrorist state. It's the country that it's the wild, wild west for the country, willing to terrorize innocent nations. So as much as it tries to demonize the Middle East, what we actually saw that the real demon, the real devil may be, is U.S. imperialism.
There's some concern by those of us who are not crazy about Donald Trump that the impeachment has really turned into sort of a Cold War investigation. And instead of a wide-ranging look at Donald Trump, it's turning into, we got to fight the 21st century against Russia. We need a new arms race. And you've got a Cold Warrior in Adam Schiff, who's the #1 recipient of military support. So it seems like that investigation into Trump is turning into a sort of a Cold War operation.
Well, we're definitely seeing a hiding of contradictions. Look, the media, what we saw with the January 4th shooting is that the media has consolidated itself to the point that as soon as an issue can break through, it mobilizes the masses. So it can spread information. It could do it against us or for us, right? So what we're seeing now with impeachment is that it's forcing itself, dominating the narrative that that's how people resist through the Democratic Party, through this process that is now muddled. But on the opposite side of that, you're still seeing the rise of the movement, a progressive movement, a movement that's supporting Bernie Sanders, a movement that's even supporting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a movement that's even supporting anti-war. So what we cannot be discouraged about, yes, that's what the mainstream, that's what the powers that be, that's what the bourgeoisie, the capitalists, the imperialists want us to believe is the center of this fight, but the masses want to resist. And that's really why we're asking people to come join us today. That's why it's important to support KPFA, is because if we're going to build independent movements that can fight, they need to be out in the street. They need to be self-organized. They need to be independent. So we're really happy that you're covering this event. We're also saying to people, the next big action is going to come around March 19th through March 21st. It's the anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. And now that 1 million Iraqis have fought back, that's the answer. The way Iraqis are resisting, that's what we need to do to resist.
Frank, why is it important for people to put their feet in the street? Why is it important to take it sort of out of the intellectual realm?
Because this is where the people are. Today we're here in Powell Street. Powell Street is such a huge contradiction to San Francisco. It's the center of tourism. People come from all over the world to be here. You see Gap, you see the other big corporations. Yet at the same time, underlying that is the issue of homelessness. Underlying that is the issue of poverty wages, where people are having to work 2 to 3 jobs into retirement. And what we want to do is make the connection. Look, there's enough information out there that proves the U.S. is bad. There's enough information that proves U.S. is the aggressor, U.S. is a terrorist state, that this is imperialism. What we need to finally do is connect with the people. And the people are out here working, struggling every single day, and we need them to understand that our message is connected to their emancipation, to their liberation, and that we need them. We need them to be out here.
All right, you work with U.S. Labor Against War.
Yeah, so
how do people get more information about that group and about what's going on here?
Yeah, so I'm an educator. I've been an educator for 10 years here in San Francisco on the executive board of the United Educators of San Francisco, the Teachers Union. And if you want to find out more information of U.S. Law, go to uslaw.org, theanswercoalition.org. All these organizations, really what matters is that you need to get involved. It's in your union wants to fight, needs to fight against the war. You're in your community, your community needs to understand how war and how the fact that 70 cents for every dollar affects your people, affects our students in our classrooms. So really that's the big message for folks, is that people are fighting, people are organizing, we just need you out here.
All right, Frank, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you down the line.
Thank you.
Be careful. And you are listening to a special edition of, KPFA Live from the Streets. Dennis Bernstein here with Miguel Gavila Molina. And let me ask you to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what brings you here.
Hi, I'm Mazda Majidi. I'm with the Answer Coalition. And I, along with many other people here, have been part of the anti-war movement for many, many years. Unfortunately, with the U.S., particularly in the Middle East, but in reality around the world, is constantly intervening with the military bases around the world, with the bombing, now with the assassinations, with the occupations. So we have been here and in similar locations protesting the U.S. occupations of Afghanistan, which is ongoing till now, U.S. occupations of Iraq, which, discontinued for a while, but is continuing now, especially even when millions of Iraqi people in Baghdad are demonstrating against continued U.S. presence. The Iraqi parliament demands that the U.S. should leave, and the U.S. still there. So we are today here in San Francisco, part of really 153 cities, maybe more, around the country, and really 20 countries in a global movement against a new war in the Middle East, this time against Iran.
You being here today, you made a decision to come out. And there's a lot of things happening this weekend. And, we hope this builds up. But what message will you send to young people, especially young people from the Middle East that are here, that have families there, that are concerned about, whether they're going to be there tomorrow, whether their country will be invaded and of course, destroyed like the U.S. does along with Britain and France. What message are you giving young people, and is there any hope for them?
Yes, there's absolutely always hope, but I'm glad you asked that question. I mean, one of the things that those of us who are here and those of us who are protesting day in and day out, one of the things that we don't realize is the effect that our protest movement, our activism has around the globe. I know that it's very energizing, and I've talked to a lot of people in Iran, in the rest of the Middle East, who are actually surprised, pleasantly surprised, that there is an anti-war movement in the U.S. What they see through, Fox News and CNN and Voice of America and BBC and so forth is the picture of a U.S. that is more or less united against wars of aggression, assassinations, bombings, occupations, and so forth. And when they see coverage of demonstrations, like in this case, in so many cities, but even smaller demonstrations, or hopefully, in March when there's going to be global days of action as well, it is very hopeful. It's very interesting for people in the targeted countries to know that there are people, there is a movement in the heart of empire that is standing up against the war drive, that is standing up against assassinations and bombings. So I think that in itself gives them hope. And of course, further hope is that we will make substantial changes, not through impeachment of Trump and putting Pence in power, but a change in the system where war and occupation is no longer a requirement, no matter which party is in office.
Why do you think, as we let you go, why do you think it's important to take it beyond the sort of the intellectual discussion and for people to put their feet in the street?
Well, I mean, discussions are easier to do, and of course discussions are necessary. We need to talk to people. All of us who are activists talk to, co-workers and neighbors and family members and fellow students and so forth. But the reality is just thoughts themselves remain in our heads. We have to convert those thoughts to actual convictions, to actions and protests. And it's not a one-day kind of thing. We should look at today and every other action as a stepping stone for growing the movement. So in that sense, it's very exciting, it's very hopeful. It's not a one-day solution, but quite frankly, what the ruling elite try to tell us to do is, do this impeachment and things will change. There's a far more hope, realistic hope, in making change from below through a movement than there is through the impeachment process.
All right, well, I thank you for sitting down with us. Good luck today.
All right, thank you.
And again, you're listening to a live stream from KPFA, it's Pacifica Radio. My name is Dennis Bernstein. I'm here with Miguel Gavilan Molina. We're in a couple of minutes, we're going to be turning it over to the rally that is being sponsored by Iraq and the Answer Coalition. We might speak to one or two people before, but we, the Flashpoint team, Miguel and I, thought it was important for us to come out and to make sure that there were microphones paying attention to what the people were doing. And we are joined by, let me ask you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what brings you out here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm with the Sunrise Movement Bay Area Hub today.
Tell us about the Sunrise Movement. What is that?
Yeah, so the Sunrise Movement is a youth-led climate justice movement that aims to address this climate crisis that we're in by using people power and systems change. So you might have seen us at Pelosi's office, the sit-in that we did. We might be outside BlackRock protesting, and we're trying to turn out millions of youth in 2021.
So why are you out here today? Let me ask you to speak right into the microphone.
Yes.
Why are you out here today putting your feet in the street? Why do you think it's important to link your movement with those who are standing against an expanding war against Iran?
Yeah, well, the U.S. military, for one, is like the #1 largest industry polluter that we have for greenhouse gas emissions. But we know that that's not all that climate change is about. It's also about the exploitation of land and resources and labor, and that are all things that we don't stand for and stand against. Yeah, and the U.S. military is also like the biggest polluter for like environmental contamination in our neighborhoods, such as Baby Hunters Point, in areas of Richmond and Vallejo, and those are all things that we care deeply about in the climate justice and environmental justice movement.
All right, well, you're going to be in the street. We're going to be following you. You can hear that the Answer and the AROC rally is beginning right behind us. We're going to throw our microphones over to the speakers, over to the forum that's happening right behind us on the streets here at Market and Powell and Market, as people like to say. Keep going. So why is it important for young people to get involved in this movement against war and in the Sunrise Movement? It's a movement really dominated by young people.
Yeah, I mean, it's our futures. We're going to be the ones, living in an unlivable world. Hopefully not, but yeah, we really have some high stakes in this fight.
Are young people talking about these issues? We hear a lot that they're not really interested. They just want to go out and kick it.
I think that if you look at our memes, if you look at our social media, you will see that we are definitely talking about these issues, and more. We are spreading this type of awareness like wildfire.
And how do people find out more about the Sunrise Movement, or how can they get in touch with you or get information about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're just rolling out what we're calling strike circles and watch. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the term. Basically, you can go to our website at sunrisemovement.org, and we're rolling out a lot of exciting things for just this month. We're putting out a lot of new videos and new media, so hopefully you all can watch and join us there.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today, and I guess you're going to be out there marching, huh?
Yep, I will.
All right. What does it feel like to march? Is it an empowering feeling for you to be out with the folks marching?
Yeah, it's super important to see like the sheer numbers out here and feel that physical support of all the folks that are out here kind of fighting for the same thing.
Well, thank you for joining us. We want to keep this dialogue going with you, all right?
Awesome.
So stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Again, this is a live stream coming from KPFA Pacifica Radio. My name last time I looked was Dennis Bernstein. I do a show on Pacifica Radio called Flashpoints. It's a little bit different than this one, but we're out here. We're in the streets. Pacifica is the People's Radio Network. We speak truth to power. We are the canary in the coal mine of corporate disinformation, and we are an anti-war network. We were founded by anti-war activists some 70 years ago who believed that it was important to have a voice for the people standing against the military-industrial, now media complex. And so we're out here, we're doing as much as we can to report about what's going on. And I think we're getting ready to go to a rally that's about to kick off right behind us. But I'm looking to see, we don't have it yet. Do we know what's going on, John? Are we about to, all right. Okay, so again, we're in the streets. We're waiting to kick in to the rally that's happening behind us, sponsored by AROC. And I think we've got Javad, welcome. I'm Dennis. Welcome to our special live streaming of KPFA Pacifica Radio. Good to have you with us.
Great.
Why are you out here today? What's at the heart of the matter for you?
Well, first, Dennis, great to meet you, or as we say in Farsi, khosh vaqtam. I'm here today to be part of a movement, to help build a movement, to be part of something bigger than myself, and try to make an impact in the way people think and conceive United States actions abroad.
Why do you think at this moment in time in history it's important for people to be out in the streets, to carry the dialogue to the streets with their feet?
Dennis, that's a great question. I think as an activist and someone who's interested, I look to history. I look to the Vietnam War when people mobilized against the actions of the Nixon administration illegally and secretly bombing Cambodia. Their actions made an impact. I look to the history of the Iraq War when people put pressure on the Bush administration by showing up. I think for us, at this moment in time, it's important not to get lost in the moment necessarily. We have to look back at history and see what has worked and what has not worked. Our goal today is to build on the movement that we have today and continue the momentum to the next movement as well.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us. I hope we can continue the dialogue with you. We've got the rally, as folks can hear, beginning right in the back, so we thank you for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
We'll see you in the street. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you are listening to KPFA Live in the Streets. We're now going to flip it to the Free Will and Frank and the rally behind us.
Yes, we're going to move our camera, so if you all bear with us one moment, there's a lot of activity happening down here on Market Street. Hundreds of people are down here, so the picture will stay up. The audio may be gone for one moment as we move to the stage. Stand by, and everyone, thank you for tuning in. We are not going out there. We'll be right back. Thank you.
From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime.
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 Give it up for yourselves for showing up to say no to war and no to endless U.S. aggression. All right, everyone, welcome. My name is Linda, and I'm with the Arab Resource and Organizing Center.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Lara. I'm also co-MC with the Answer Coalition.
And today we are here to demand an end to the aggression, the devastation, and the occupation that the U.S. has brought on our people in the Middle East, from Iraq to Palestine. We call for a withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq, an end to the sanctions imposed on the people of Iran, and most importantly, a repeal of the authorization of use of military force, also known as AUMF. We understand that sanctions have been used as a tool of warfare. We understand that peace and justice are not priorities when the U.S. is involved in foreign policy. We understand the strategies used to destabilize the Middle East, to murder our people, and to continue the aggression that has been endless and going on for decades.
And we want to thank you again, because we know that the people who started coming out on January 4th, after the U.S. committed an act of terrorism against another sovereign nation, we know that then sparked the rise of a new movement, a movement for justice, an anti-war movement that has seen war occur throughout their entire lifetimes, has seen different type of wars, sanctions, bombings, drone bombings, and yet still the government tries to make excuses. Still the government pulls resources from us in order to bomb and kill innocent people abroad. So we know that you're here. We know we're excited to see that today over 150 cities protested, that cities all over the world continue to protest, because even though this issue of Iran has come up, we know that they're still bombing Yemen. We knew that they bombed Syria. We knew that there's still sanctions against Cuba, against Venezuela. And that just shows that imperialism, in fact, is a system against the poor and oppressed of the world. So we thank you for coming. We want to introduce our first speaker, Mike Wang with Veterans for Peace.
Thank you. I'm speaking for both Veterans for Peace and for Chinese Americans for Peace. The picture in Iran is much bigger than just Iran, and even much bigger than the Middle East. Iran sits In between Africa and China, Iran was attempting to make peace with its archenemy, Saudi Arabia. General Soleimani was on a peace mission to talk to the Saudis. Had they made peace, which they may still do in the future, then the Arab, the Middle East can come together and resist American imperialism. Furthermore, it's midway between China and Africa on the road through the new Belt and Road Initiative by China to connect China and all of East Asia with Europe and with Africa, and to promote development in Africa, which would help the Africans resist American imperialism. So this is part of a global picture. And the attempt to start a war, to assassinate somebody on a peace mission, was an attempt to undermine all of Asia, all of the Middle East, and all of what?
Speak close.
Oh, and all of Africa, to unite all of these countries against American imperialism. That's what this is really about. I would like to invite you to two events. February 1st, Saturday, at the Veterans Building on the corner of Fulton and Van Ness, at 7 o'clock in room 221.
30 seconds.
There will be an event where Colonel Ann Wright, who resigned from the State Department and refused to participate in the Iraq War, will speak on the next Gaza flotilla to break the blockade of Gaza. The following night, February 2nd, Sunday at 7 p.m. in room 210, she will be speaking on the new Cold War on China. Please come. Everyone is welcome. Thank you.
If you are here for the anti-war protest, please move closest to the banner. I'm talking about folks on Powell and Market by the BART entrance. Come through. All right, brothers and sisters, today we stand together to call for a people's movement. Our movement is an internationalist movement, meaning that we stand together with all people affected by United States imperialism and warfare that has been going on for too damn long.
That's right.
Our movement seeks to end this aggression. Our movement seeks to stand with our people and support the rights to freedom and sovereignty and true justice. With that being said, we do not only call for U.S. aid out of Iraq, we do not only call for no war with Iran, we call for U.S. military aid to be cut to the demonizing state of Israel. We call for the U.S. military to stop supporting the incarceration and imprisonment of Palestinian children. Children as young as 4 years old are constantly kidnapped by the Israeli military. If we want to stand up to this, we can support H.R. 2407, calling for promoting the human rights of Palestinian children who are living under Israeli occupation. Over 700 Palestinian children are arrested and prosecuted by the Israeli government. We need to say no. We need to call our congressmen and tell them to stand up to this aggression, to cut military aid from the occupying illegal state of Israel. We have volunteers in the crowd that you can sign the petition to let the people in power know that we don't support military aid to Israel, and know that we are standing with Palestinian children and all people suffering from United States aggression and aid that affects our people and imprisons them.
When people are occupied, resistance is justified. When people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance
movement. Please welcome Sarah.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm with the Sunrise Movement Bay Area Hub today. I want to give a quick shout out to Movement Generation, who gave us most of these talking points, and all the OG environmental justice orgs whose continued leadership makes our work possible. I also want to acknowledge that this is Ohlone territory that we are standing on right now, and that the native people of this land have been taking care of it for thousands of years and still do today. So Sunrise is a youth-led climate justice movement that works to address climate crisis through people power and systems change, and it is searingly clear that there is a connection between US militarism and climate catastrophe. Our military is a massive greenhouse gas emitter, in fact the single largest institutional source of emissions in the world, and produces more emissions in over 140 countries, including the likes of Sweden and Denmark. But to make that the issue is lazy, because we know that climate change isn't simply about greenhouse gas emissions, it is about the exploitation of land and labor. It is about colonialism and imperialism. To blow up mountains for coal to suck oil out of the Middle East requires first the controlling of people and territories. An economy based on the exploitation of human labor and the extraction of wealth from the living world can only be maintained through systemic and well-organized violence, militarism. All wars are resource wars, wars for oil, wars for water, wars for land. And we know that the endless demands for new frontiers of extractivism to feed capitalism can only be maintained through war and the threat of war. Are we going to stand for that? No. And are we going to stand for that? No. And we can never, like Linda said, never talk about the US militarism in the Middle East without talking about the other Western colonial power in the middle of the Middle East, Israel, whose entire existence is dependent on the theft of land, water, and lives of Palestinians. If all wars are resource wars, then all war is ecological warfare. And Israel has perfected ecological warfare from the destruction of traditional olive orchards that are the foundation of many Palestinian communities to the wholesale theft of water and destruction of Palestinian aquifers. All of this, from the occupation of Palestine to the occupation of Iraq to the occupation of Ohlone territory here to the sanctions on Iran and occupations everywhere, destroy land, lives, and livelihoods. This more than their thousands of gallons of jet fuel burned and spewed into the atmosphere every single day is a real ecological catastrophe of US militarism, imperialism, and global bullyism. We reject this by being here today, and we stand with the people in Iran. We stand with those risking their lives in Baghdad to protest against American military presence, and we stand with Palestine, and we say no war, no sanctions, no war, no sanctions, no war, no sanctions. And that's how we shine bright. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here today.
No sanctions, no war. This is what we're fighting for.
No sanctions, no war. This is what we're fighting for.
No sanctions, no war. This is what we're fighting for.
No sanctions, no war. This is what we're fighting for.
From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime.
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 Give it up for yourselves. Let's all remember that today is a global day of action to stand for justice. Let's remember that we are not alone in our calls for justice and universal end to US aggression. Let's be loud and proud so we could stand together and let everyone know that we are against war, that we are against imperialism, and we are against the constant aggression and violence upon our homelands with our people in the Middle East. Everyone get loud. The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
Louder, the people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
Give it up for yourselves. I would like to introduce Kiwi. He is a local hip-hop artist and strong ally in the movement. Give it up for Kiwi.
San Francisco, how y'all doing today? Are y'all ready to stand up against war? Are you ready to stand up against occupation? I want to give a shout out to the Filipino community that's here today. My folks in the Philippines are standing in solidarity with all third world, global south nations that have survived war, occupation, imperialism, and we stand in solidarity with everybody here today. And I'm just gonna do a little, I'm a hip hop artist, so I'm gonna do a little rap. So with rap, if you've never been to a rap show, we do a little call and response sometimes. So we're gonna do a little bit of that, and I'm just gonna rap a little bit, all right? Ready? Say no more war. Say no more war. No more war. Whole damn system rotten to the core. Ain't no justice if you're brown or you're poor. Say no more war. No more war. Say no more war. No more war. I place my words on the altar, offer them to my ancestors, to all my family, every brother and sister, to every inch of the land, every drop of the sea, every ounce of oxygen that we breathe, because I feel the impact of them bombing the earth, because every bomb that they drop leaves a scar in the dirt from the woman that it hit as she was walking to work, and a couple oil barrels was all it was worth. I want it to hurt. I want the pain to stay with me for life so it could come out of my pen every time that I write, so we know what it's like to see things through her. Fire burning every word, everything is a blur, and you sit back and wonder why they doing it for. Like, what the fuck is anyone trying to prove with this war? As if it ain't enough that your family is poor. You about to explode, can't take it no more, but you do what you gotta so your kids can eat. But every day, every meal's looking less complete, cause they blew up the supermarket down the street, and there's no electricity to freeze the meat. And to think we got nerve to say that we're free and not question anything that we see on TV. I guess that's why we watch that shit, cause it's mad drama, as if nobody is affected by tax dollars. But my conscience won't settle for that, cause what they living over there can't be said in a rap. Nah, my conscience won't settle for that, cause what they living over there can't be said in a rap. I said, whole damn system, rotten to the core. Ain't no justice if you're brown and you're poor. Say no more war. No more war. Say no more war. No more. Make some noise for yourselves. Let's get out there.
From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. 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 Give it up for yourselves for showing up. If you say no war with Iran, make some noise. Today we understand that when we call for no war, we are not just talking about internationally. Our communities are at war with this racist system. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw the reality of the police department bringing tanks to evict 4 black mothers for simply calling as housing as a right.
That's right.
They got tanks to bring into our communities, and they can't even feed us, and they don't even understand how to house people.
That's right.
We need to understand that we have the power to say no to the allocation of military aid. We say yes to supporting our communities and building us up stronger than how much they try to bring us down. We need to understand the U.S. regime as not being in our best interest for our survival. We need to understand that the more they incarcerate us, the more that they occupy us, and the more that they drone us, we are only going to get louder and scream for our brothers and sisters who can't. For all the people in jail cells, for all the people suffering at the border, we are going to show up loud. We are going to show up strong and united and say an end to the international U.S. aggression on our people. We will not be silenced. We will resist your drones, we will resist your bombs, and we will resist your occupation. So repeat after me. When people are occupied, resistance is justified. When people are occupied, resistance is justified. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Oakland to Palestine, occupation is a crime. Oakland to Palestine, occupation is a crime. Give it up for yourselves for showing up for the people.
All right. That's after hours. Okay. Our next speaker is Alice with the Task Force of the Americas. Please welcome Alice.
Hey, we can't even keep track of the wars that are going on in this country anymore. And anytime we stand up to war, we have to stand up to the war against many, many people. We have to stand up against the war in Syria. We have to stand up against the war against the Palestinian people. We have to stand up against the war of the people in South America. This morning, I opened the Defense Department page, and this is what I read. U.S. Colombian paratroopers participate in airborne assault exercises. That's going on right now, and what they're doing, they're trying to prepare the invasion of Venezuela using the Colombians to do it. What's happened in South America, and the wars are very predominant, and there are many wars in South America. Today I'm going to speak about a couple of them. One of them is Venezuela. The Venezuelan revolution in the 1990s said, we don't want the United States, we want self-determination. We want to decide our own future without the United States telling us what to do. They became immediately a great enemy of the United States. And immediately the US started planning how they were going to end the Bolivarian Revolution. Evo Morales in Bolivia formed the MAS, movement towards socialism. He was the first elected indigenous leader of Bolivia. He wanted independence from the United States. He wanted self-determination. He and his country also became enemies of the United States. The United States is on the border of Colombia, trying to create and parading this clown, Juan Guaido, all over Europe saying that he's the president of Venezuela. It's not true. They just formed, less than 3 months ago, they created a coup in Bolivia and overthrew Evo Morales in a very horrendous way. Also, I wanted to say that Honduras is a creation of the drug and corrupt government of Juan Orlando Hernandez, has created the conditions for many thousands upon thousands of Hondurans to come toward the United States and look for refuge in another country. They're being met at the Mexican border, which is a system created by the United States. They're being met at the US border and treated as criminals and dying in the process. We really have to fight, and the embassy protectors are people we need to support. The Venezuelan embassy protectors were invited to take on the embassy in Washington so that the United States would not occupy it. It was the legal embassy of Venezuela. The embassy protectors are 4 people who were then arrested and are now being tried. In February, their trial begins. We need to support them. They're hand-picking a jury with no information about anything, and it's really a rigged trial. So we need to support the embassy the protectors that are coming up. Thank you.
Rise up, rise up, rise up.
Rise up, rise up.
Rise up, rise up, rise up.
Rise up, rise up, rise up.
Rise up, my people, 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 rise up.
Give it up for yourselves. No justice, no peace.
Justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
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 You guys, let's get louder. Let's get louder. Come on, we're all here committed for an end to the U.S. aggression on our people. Can we get louder? introduce next Iranian activist and scholar Seema Shakhsari.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Seema, and I'm here from Minneapolis for a conference, but I would not miss this. Thank you guys for showing up. I grew up during a war, so I know what it means to grow up to the sound of sirens and to the sound of airplanes and explosions. I grew up during an 8-year war between Iran and Iraq. A war that was fueled by the U.S. Back then, Iraq, Saddam was the friend of the United States. Back then, they gave Saddam chemical bombs to drop on the Iranian people. So I lived in Tehran, and as a high school kid, we had to basically go to the shelter. Every 20 minutes, Saddam was sending a missile to Tehran, and we had it good. We lived in Tehran. People in the border towns were dying. 2 million people died during the Iran-Iraq war, innocent Iranians and Iraqis, a war that was fueled by the U.S. intervention and U.S. imperialism. Iraqi children, 1.5 Iraqi children died during the sanctions on Iraq, and they're doing the same thing on Iran. We are here to say no war, but a war has started on Iran. The sanctions are killing the Iranian people slowly. There are so many people who are suffering, the most vulnerable people, queer and trans people, Afghan refugees, poor people in Iran. Those are the ones who are paying for the sanctions. It's not the state, it's these poor people who are paying for these sanctions. So we need to raise our voices and say, lift the sanctions. We need to ask the U.S. policymakers to lift the sanctions on Iran because they're killing the Iranian people. A lot of people are killing from cancer. I lost my sister to cancer in 2015, and I know what it meant for her to look for chemo medicine. It was unavailable for her and for many people. The U.S. sent a virus, Stuxnet, and it basically shut down all the computers that work with nuclear energy. My sister's radiotherapy stopped exactly because of the way that U.S. policies are killing the Iranian people. On the other hand, they're talking about the rights of Iranian people. On the other hand, they're killing people slowly with sanctions. So I'm asking you guys not to stop this at just bombardments, but you need to ask people, you need to ask the U.S. to lift the sanctions on Iran. That is as important as bombardments, because the sanctions are a war in another name. I also wanted to say something about how the U.S. policies are affecting the Iranian diaspora. You may have heard this, but just a few days ago, an Iranian student in Boston was deported because he was assumed to be a collaborator with the Iranian regime and so on and so forth. So the Islamophobia is also being is on the rise in the U.S. exactly because of the U.S. policies. So I'm out of time, but please do whatever you can. Write to your representatives and ask them to lift the sanctions on Iran. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Swati Rayasam with Asada. So please welcome Swati.
Good morning, everybody. J-Beam. My name is Swati, and I'm a member of ASATA, the Alliance of South Asians Taking Action. ASATA is here to protest militarism and war and to stand in solidarity with the Iranian people in the face of the U.S. government's warmongering. ASATA was founded 20 years ago in response to a human sex and labor trafficking case in Berkeley. And that case galvanized our community to organize feminist, anti-capitalist movements centering the most vulnerable among us, such as Muslims, Dalits, and other minorities persecuted in our homelands and who face oppression within the South Asian diaspora. Today, the fascist Modi government in India has passed the Indian Citizenship Amendment Act. This is a dangerous step toward potential genocide in India. The CAA, in essence, bars Muslim immigrants from becoming Indian nationals and lays the legal foundation to force the country's 200 million Muslims to submit to the largest network of concentration camps and the largest Muslim registry in the world. These concentration camps, which are currently under construction, are being built with schools and are being built with permanent sanitation facilities. The Indian government is preparing to raise a generation of children in these camps. In its wake, there has been the largest set of protests in India since independence, as well as brutal suppression of the resistance through colonial-era sedition laws. These are intended to suppress the growing dissent from marginalized populations. Asatha will be participating in a protest at the Indian consulate here in San Francisco tomorrow from 11 to 1. If you have capacity to stand up with us and to add to our numbers, come out. When our comrades in India see that the South Asian diaspora in the United States and our allies are with them, the impact will be immense. For those who can't come out tomorrow, Asatha is also organizing under the national leadership of Equality Labs, a South Asian organization focused on ending the oppression of caste apartheid, Islamophobia, white supremacy, and religious intolerance. You can sign up for nationwide action alerts across the country, really, at bit.ly/South Asian Power. Asatha members are here holding our South Asian Against the War banner. We painted this banner back in 2003, and it still continues to be relevant today. We remember the post-9/11 days of heightened xenophobia. It was a scary time for our communities, but it was also an opportunity to form new political alliances and new community trust as we worked with other Arab and Muslim organizers doing Know Your Rights trainings and mobilizing against the bombing of Afghanistan and Iraq. We are grateful to those relationships that have endured as we continue to follow the leadership of groups like AROC in this political moment, knowing that our struggles are connected from Kashmir to Palestine to Iran to Bolivia to the front lines of gentrification here in San Francisco. Together we will win liberation for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we get the chanters?
No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. No more violence on the poor. Stop the sanctions and the war. Tell me what you want, what you really want. Justice. Tell me what you need, what you really need. Justice. How we gonna get it? People power. How we gonna get it? People power. Tell me what you want, what you really want. Justice. Tell me what you need, what you really need. Justice. How we gonna get it? People power. How we gonna get it? People power. How we gonna get it? People power. Tell me what you want, what you really want. Justice. Tell me what you need, what you really need. Justice. How we gonna get it? People power. How we gonna get it? People power. The people united will never be defeated. 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 El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido
speaker, Wang with the International League of People's Struggles. Wang.
From Palestine to the Philippines, stop the U.S. war machine. From Iraq to the Philippines,
Stop the U.S. war machine.
from Iran to the Philippines.
Stop the U.S. war machine.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Win. I'm with Anakba in San Francisco. With Bayan is here with San Francisco Coalition of Human Rights in the Philippines. And today we're here to share a statement from the International League of People's Struggles. And recently, we would also want to mention that there have been attacks in the Philippines, the same very forces that have been attacking in the Middle East. Recently in Davao, what happened is that there have been an evacuation center in the church where 50 people have tried to bombard and attack Lumad communities. And so this just happened yesterday. And we want to share that violence is happening, and this type of violence is being funded by U.S. tax dollars. And so we're here to say no war anywhere. We stand with the people of Iran and Iraq against U.S. wars of aggression, the cowardly assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani on Iraqi soil, the deployment of more U.S. troops to the Southwest Asia and North Africa region, and the belligerent threats of the Trump administration reveal to the world that billions of people already know. The United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, the single largest threat to the peace and security of Southwest Asia and North Africa, and a rogue state with no regard for international law. The assassination of Soleimani constitutes a war crime and a violation of the sovereignty of both Iraq and Iran. It makes the world less safe and increases the chance of an all-out war in the region. The International League of People's Struggles U.S. chapter joins with the tens of thousands who took to the streets of the U.S. on Saturday to denounce the assassination and calling for U.S. out of Iraq, no war with Iran. We stand with all peace and justice, loving people, international civil society, and particularly the peoples of Iraq and Iran in opposing the belligerence of the U.S. terrorist state. We call for the immediate removal of all U.S. troops from Iraq and the whole region, and the lifting of all sanctions on Iran. The people in the U.S. have a special responsibility, a duty to oppose the war crimes of this empire and to declare that our position is against the empire, which threatens to the future of the whole planet. We must stand with the people of the world, especially where they're rising up for a better future. Only guided by that internationalism can we fulfill our duty to expose and oppose the U.S. empire from within. We can learn from and build with the courageous forces already in motion against empire, the anti-war veterans, the religious communities, and the indigenous and national liberation struggles within the U.S. In addition, we have a responsibility to bring many, many more people into the struggle, the youth, who will be recruited as cannon fodder, the communities that have been targeted for repression, and millions of progressive and conscious people who can see that the empire has no future for them. We must develop the leadership of the oppressed and working class people and engage in a progress of unity and struggle with the wide variety of social forces. And the forces are here! From Palestine to the Philippines!
Stop the U.S. war machine.
From Iraq to the Philippines!
Stop the U.S. war machine.
From Iran to the Philippines!
Stop the U.S. war machine.
Thank you.
Next up, I want to introduce Casey from Chinese Progressive Action.
Can y'all hear me okay? Hello? Can y'all hear me okay? Hi, I'm Casey. I'm a community organizer with the Chinese Progressive Association here in San Francisco. For nearly 50 years, CPA has organized working class Chinese immigrants who fight for a just world. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year. It's a really important holiday celebrated by Chinese and many other Asian communities across the world. Entire extended families travel across the world to reunite, give and receive love, and set intentions for a new year of fortune. As we enter the year of the rat, CPA is proud to renew our decades-long commitment to condemn war and U.S. militarism, and to align with Arab and Middle Eastern communities and people across the globe to demand justice and peace, and to say no to war on Iran. Hello? Hello? Did it cut out? No war with Iran. Great. Hello? Is it cutting in and out? Hello? Hello? Okay. Even though I'm far away from my... What should I do? Hello? Hello? Yeah? Hello? No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No peace! What do we think? No peace! Hello? 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 Thank you. Hello? All right, here we go. Woo! All right, let's end this. Even though I'm really far away from my family members on the East Coast and in China, I'm really excited to amplify the unity and power for good here, today, with you all. There's a legend about the origin of Lunar New Year that a long, long time ago there was a beast who terrorized Chinese people, ate their crops, until people figured out that loud noises and the color red help scare the beast away. So if you are against the beast that is U.S. militarism, can you make some noise? If you are against the beast that is U.S. sanctions and exploitation and capitalism, can y'all make some noise? Thank you.
Y'all ready to march? Yeah. Y'all ready to march? Yeah. Sisters, brothers, family, everybody who's out here today, we're so happy that you came out. We're so happy also that you understood we had to make some adjustments, but we're getting ready to march. Know that today we are connected with over 150 cities. We are connected with many cities around the world as well. And it doesn't stop today. Today is a build-up from what January 4th was. And the next call for action, we know that more than 1 million Iraqis joined together in a massive demonstration yesterday to demand that U.S. troops leave Iraq. The Trump administration and the Pentagon have made it clear that the U.S. will not exit from Iraq, even though they will assert that ISIS has been completely defeated in Iraq. So again, this demonstrates the purely colonial character of U.S. occupation in Iraq. We will also demand an end of sanctions on Iran and the U.S. out of the Middle East for March 19th through the 21st on the global days of protest. We know that that's what originally was the invasion of Iraq, and we know that we need to keep this movement building, so please join us. We're going to have a closing rally with some speakers. We're going to have, again, two of the main organizers starting us off, the AROC and the Answer Coalition, and we're going to start marching with this. We're going to be led... Oh, sorry. We have one more speaker, and then we're going to have our chanters lead us off for this march. So please welcome Jackie Fielder for State Senate, running for State Senate.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly thank you all for taking time out of your weekend. Last weekend, we had MLK weekend. And as we know, hello? Hello? As we know, so many people use MLK weekend to take their time and maybe clean up a park, but we absolutely know that he was, towards the end of his life, was absolutely anti-war. And if your feminism does not include women, trans people, non-binary people abroad, if it doesn't include black and brown people abroad, it is not intersectional. Thank you everyone for being out here.
Okay, please follow the facilitators as we lead out with some chants. Please get ready to march.
When Iran is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Iraq is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Gaza is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Palestine is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
I'll take this one.
That cable, they keep
US, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
US, you can't hide.
Gracias.
US, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
US, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
US, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
Give it up to KPFA.
1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your racist war. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your racist war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the lie, stop the hate. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the lie, stop the hate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your racist war. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your racist war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the drones, stop the hate. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the drones, stop the hate. No more violence, stop the war. Watch out.
We'll never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that.
Yeah, you're listening to and watching our special live broadcast, KPFA. This is People in Franklin here. I want to appreciate everybody that's been tuning in to kpfa.org today. If this is programming that you appreciate, if you heard your organization on here or organization to support, give some support to KPFA. Go to kpfa.org and make a donation if you can and help the station stay alive. That's bringing you the voice of the street right here.
KPFA's been an anti-war establishment ever since day one.
And that's our video man, John Barulis. We've been out here early this morning setting up to bring you this special live broadcast. It was a technical challenge. As you can see, we're right here on the street, but it worked out for the better, of course. And, I mean, there's plenty. I'm not an estimator of people, but, you know, there's hundreds of people here. And we're just going to keep it on the crowd for now before we wrap it up. And if you are out there, hey, if you're out there and you can't make a donation, go to kpfa.org and make a financial contribution there if you can. And we want to submit a special thanks to John on the camera. Thank you, John. The KPFA First Voice Apprenticeship Program. And Dennis Bernstein, Miguel Gavilan Molina, Aria Moshirian, he's right down here. You can't see him.
Don't forget Freewheelin' Franklin.
That's me right here. And yes, we've been out here all day, all morning, all day. We're going to wrap it up after this crowd goes by. And we just wanted to thank everyone that tuned in. We're interested in video broadcasting, video streaming on kpfa.org. If that's something that you're listening to and you appreciate, hey, shoot out an email to the program director or the general manager at KPFA and thank them for this broadcast. Without their help and permission, it wouldn't be possible. If you saw it on Facebook, on any KPFA social media, that wouldn't be possible without support from KPFA management. So we appreciate that. And people are still going. There's a nice crowd left. And getting ready to head down, looks like, what street is that, John?
Powell, looks like Powell. They're heading east on Market, heading up to Powell. There's a heavy police presence here, but it's been very calm and measured, and the crowd has been well behaved. You know, for this many people and folks out here, it's very impressive to see how peaceful they were.
Also, I believe they are heading to Union Square to have an ending rally with speakers. So if you're out in the area, that's where they will be, Union Square. They're marching there now. And once again, I appreciate everybody that tuned in to kpfa.org today. And anybody that shared our link or our stream today, we really appreciate that. We're looking to advance into video broadcasting, and we know it's important to people out there to be able to watch on their phone and to be able to view as well as to listen. So we appreciate that, John. Thank you.
Yeah, and pay attention to the YouTube when it goes up. It'll be on the brightpathvideo.com website and YouTube channel, and it will also be featured on KPFA.org. There'll be a link to the YouTube rebroadcast of this event. So thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll see. KPFA has a YouTube channel, so maybe it'll go to their YouTube channel.
Let's put it there.
Yeah, so keep an eye out and tune into the new social media that KPFA is working on. We really appreciate. Follow social media, KPFA social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and check out the KPFA on YouTube. There's been some work with our past program director, Kevin Cartwright, and graduate apprentice Ephraim Colbert, where they recorded some bands, and they have posted them on the channel. So check it out. Spread our social media, and I believe we're about to sign off. Thank you, John. Thank you, First Voice Apprentice, Aria, and anybody that tuned in. We appreciate the support. And go to kpfa.org if you happen to be able to make a financial contribution. That'd be great. All right, everyone, have a good day. And they're heading to Union Square.